completely unplanned, but he's one of our customers on the platform, and that's really exciting that to see you here. And thank you for attending. And also fun to see so many people from Local First. I'm very involved in my community's Local First here in Maryland. I'm based in Silver Spring, Maryland, and like one of the founding members of our Local First. So I know how hard you guys work. I 100% get it. And so kudos to you for keeping up against all odds at times. That said, so typically we do it kind of like I was telling Jen, we do a much longer, like a workshopy type of event when we talk about how to tell your impact story and how to get the data to tell that story. We have very little time today, so I'm going to do this kind of a quick overview, do a jump, walk you through. One of my goals for today is to make sure you understand a little bit of, like, at least from my perspective, what we can do and can do with unit of impact. When it comes to impact measurement and impact data and impact storytelling, it's like one of those red herrings or something. Everybody has a very different idea of what that means. So just getting everybody on the same page and kind of understanding what are the essential pieces, and it will be different for different organizations, but there's some core basics. So that's one of my goals, is to kind of be very clear about what we can do, what we can't do. I have a lot of colleagues in the world of impact data, and so many of them have other platforms, tools, resources that I am 100% happy to share. My goal is to get all of us who are working in this doing more and doing it a little bit more ease and doing it with community. So I completely understand if like what we offer is not the right fit. Happy to refer you to anybody who might be. So that said, I'm going to share my slides so we can get started. And yes, we'll have room for discussion. So that's always where I learn the most. So I look forward to it. It's like the best part of any presentation. All right, let me share my screen. Oh, not what I wanted to do. Sorry. Let's do the presenter view. Oh, I did that again. Sorry. Okay. All right. Can you guys see this?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. I wonder why. Okay. Give me a second. I'm not sure why it's not sharing correctly.
I know a lot of us are struggling with this for the last couple weeks, so they just updated Zoom, it seems like. So you're not alone.
Okay,
there we go.
Okay, let's try again. I'll go to my PowerPoint, view, slideshow. All right, here we are. Okay, great. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about the software we built called Unit of Impact and how we're using it to amplify your impact story. I know that many of you come from nonprofit space, and you guys are way ahead of businesses. Believe it or not, you're way ahead of businesses when it comes to telling your impact story, because fundraising dollars depend on it. I get it. So a lot of times businesses don't know how to do this well, uncomfortable doing it well, or just uncomfortable doing it, period, and have trouble with this idea of like impactful storytelling that focuses on what impacts are they having in their community, in their own companies, etc. So because I'm straddling these two worlds of business and nonprofit, I'm going to kind of toggle between the two. So just, I know that it's not all the same. So just a little bit, like 2 seconds about our origin story. We had 3 people that know each other because all 3 of us are small business owners, and all 3 of our businesses are certified B Corps. I don't know how many of you know what that is, but it's a business certification that is very, very hard to get, but it basically makes sure that your business is not just focusing on profits, but also is looking out for the planet and the people. And the three of us met through the B Corp community, and two of us are public benefit corporations as well. And we were really struggling, really truly struggling as small businesses with compiling our impact data, knowing where we are at any given point. And then beyond that, creating an impact report that was required by the state as a public benefit corporation and is really like pretty much required by B Lab, the certifying body, to maintain your certification. And I'm in a business, so Roundpeg is a marketing design firm. So I've been in business as running Roundpeg for 21 years now, and this is one of our service offerings. We do this for nonprofits and clients. We do impact reporting for them. We write, design, and produce impact reports. And I know how expensive it is. I know that when you bring in an agency and when you bring in an outside contractor, it could get really expensive. And a lot of my small nonprofits can't afford it. So they do it in-house and they don't often do the best job. And very same thing happens with small businesses. They can't afford it. They get somebody who has some basic Canvas skills to do it for them. And everything just kind of deteriorates from there. It never is something that you're proud of. And I've heard from a lot of business owners saying, yeah, we have an impact report, but we're kind of embarrassed to share it, or it's not very good. And I was in the same boat. I'm embarrassed. I was that classic case of a whatever is the expression, shoemaker whose kids go barefoot. Like that was happening to us. So we said, is there another way to do this? Is there a better way to do this? That could maybe simplify things. And we went and looked, and these is the kind of stuff I found. I started attending workshops. I started attending, sustainability talks and learnings, and it would just be like, I just get overwhelmed because there'd be all these acronyms and all these terms and all this stuff that I was like, whoa, I'm not a sustainability professional. I'm not trained in understanding this language. This is so over my head. And looking at all this stuff, I realized that there's just a lot of stuff that's targeted to much larger companies. There are tools in the market, there's software in the market that is priced at a level that's not affordable for the smaller companies or the nonprofit level. And the terminology and the skills you need to have to even make those tools work for you were just way outside of my bandwidth and my knowledge base. And I felt like I've been doing this for quite some time. So I said, well, there's got to be something that's much more comfortable for a small business owner who's wearing 3 million hats, has lots of fires to put out, and is just busy. And also just doesn't have extra, several $1,000s to dump into this kind of software. And there was nothing. We could not find one thing that we could subscribe to and off the shelf. That was what we wanted to do. So we kind of said, well, that's crazy. Maybe we should build something for ourselves. And we did. So what started as a side project that the three of us kind of just enjoy doing during COVID, I say Unit of Impact is my COVID baby, because if it wasn't for that like kind of weird space and time where I was stuck at home and not able to do a whole lot, I don't think it would have happened. So it was a COVID baby. And once we started to kind of ask questions, talk to people, interview a lot of other stakeholders, these are the two numbers that I guess stood out to us, that most people, a third of the people, were struggling with data analysis and collection, but right behind that, just 1% was the planning. Just making time for this and making it part of your like operational procedures is really, really challenging. Because most people don't know where to start. Like, how do you start? What's important? What should be step 1, 2, and 3? Like, just the process is so complicated that it's a deterrent in a way. So part of our goal was to simplify every step of the way, simplify the process so it's not so challenging, and people can just do this easy and do it on an ongoing basis. Again, I think you guys in the nonprofit sector are just more in tune to how important this is. And I'm preaching to the choir, probably to those of you who do this kind of as part of your regular workflow. In a business environment, it's not quite like that. And then a year later, we asked some of the same questions. And it was interesting because of the kind of year we've had, availability of resources, whether it's financial or human resources, was really like a very big barrier to doing this work. And I think it just speaks to, the state of our economy, how small businesses feel like they're, getting really squeezed. And it's just gotten harder, not easier, really. All right. So, but to do this kind of work, you do have to start with measuring, and you probably have some processes in place. Let it be Google spreadsheets or Excel sheets, or there's probably some ways you now collecting this data. And I think that's the step one. What can you measure? Who will be responsible for it? How much do you trust the data that you're getting? Where is it coming from? What kind of goals do you want to set once you have some initial baseline information? And really, how are you going to share it? It's really important to kind of think through all, the entire pie and not just a segment of the pie. And in my work that I see with RoundPeg, when I talk to a lot of really fantastic companies, small businesses, a lot of them are doing really interesting, fantastic work. Like, that's not the problem. Some of them even have some data points around it, but where the struggle comes in is the sharing. That piece does not get done. Or it gets done in a very superficial way, where it's an occasional social media post or an occasional LinkedIn post, right? It's not kind of like comprehensive enough to really tell a long, full impact story. So, I could talk a lot about how to do this stuff. I don't think that's the goal of today's conversation, and but I do want to encourage you to think about it, even if it's a baby step. So, in the platform, we broke the data portal of it into these 4 buckets, if you will: governance, community, people, and environment. And under that, what you see, the bullet points, is the type of metrics that can be collected. And we kept it really simple by design, again, because we were looking to service small business community, small nonprofit community. Those large players are set. They've got a lot at their disposal because they just have a lot more resources. When it comes to us in a small business community, we're strapped for time, we're strapped for money, we're strapped for people. We maybe have 15 minutes a day where we could do this. So we just wanted to keep it really easy and accessible. No fancy terms, no weird questions. I don't want you to read a question and be like, what are they asking me? So everything is very, very simple and accessible. And it's okay if what we see in our users, it's totally okay if you have a lot of maybe stuff to measure in the community section. Maybe your company does a lot of volunteering or advocacy or mentoring, or you have a philanthropic program you give to your local nonprofits, whatever it is. Like, that's your strong suit. Great. Lean into your strong suit. Let's build that up, and let's then create a report that communicates all of that interesting stuff out. And maybe the environment you're really new on, maybe you haven't measured your carbon footprint, maybe it's something you don't even know how to even approach it. So that might feel less comfortable. That's okay. I always start, let's lean into the part you're strongest in, and then build the other aspects as we go along. Any information that is being imported into the portal, into the software, creates a dashboard for you. And this is an example. Michelle with Hiring, a company out in California, gave me permission to grab her dashboard and show it here. So again, it's governance, community, environment, and people. And so whatever data is captured is what's going to show up. The minute you update it, it's going to update your dashboard. And it's a way to kind of understand where you are at any given point in time. So you can actually plan ahead as you move through the year. And if you had goals for the year, you could see, are you behind? Are you ahead? How are you doing? What's going on? It's very helpful to understand, and to plan. So a lot of times I hear from customers that they use this platform as a strategic planning tool because it kind of helps them understand where they were last year, how does it compare to this year, where they are towards meeting their goals set forward for the year. So all of that good stuff. Again, you guys in the nonprofit space who do fundraising have a lot of tools that do similar stuff, so I'm sure you get it. But what I like to say is our kind of superpower, if you will, is the impact report generator. And that's a parallel path to the data portion. So we have companies on the platform who are really into the data and kind of nerd out on that and might not do an impact report. And then we have some who only use the platform for impact reporting and continue to use their own internal spreadsheets for the data piece of it. So you can do either, you could do both. It's entirely up to you. But coming from the marketing communication aspect, I'm really proud of having these templates that we created that help companies who've never done this before, never had an impact report before, get a digital web page. It's an online product, so it's a web page with a URL that you could share with anybody and everybody. That's professionally designed, put together, guides you through the entire process. So you don't need a developer, you don't need a web person, you don't need a graphic designer. You pretty much don't even need a writer if you have all the pieces that you need, and you can build one in a very short time. You could bang it out in a couple of hours if you have all the pieces you need. And I have to say that of the 40 companies we have in a platform now, like 98% of them had created their very first impact report on a platform, because so many of them are small and just didn't have the resources, didn't know how to do this, and so having now a chance to start communicating all this cool stuff they're doing, talking to their suppliers, talking to their customers, talking to their investors, all of that, it definitely makes me feel like, for better or worse, we've accomplished something. So I want to take a minute to talk about best practices when you do get into talking about your impact and communicating your impact story. There's one thing I'd like to say that's probably number one, and that is, don't try to tell us everything. A lot, that's like the biggest, most common mistake. And I see this with across the board, doesn't matter if it's for-profit, nonprofit space. People get really excited about things they're doing and really just want to spew out everything that they're ever done. And I think that's actually a mistake. It really does help to think about who your audience is, who are you talking to, and then think about what are some of the things that happen throughout the year, initiatives, practices, partners, moments, whatever it is that is so out there that you're most proud of, that you're just so excited about, that those are the ones that are worth sharing. I think there are a lot of other things that happen that are routine, that are part of your business or part of your nonprofit, and they're important. They make your daily life better, but they're not necessarily the kind of stuff you want to include inside an impact report, truly. And one of the things I tried to say is that there's a distinction to be made between what you want to measure and what you want to share. There are a lot of metrics that you may want to measure that are really important for your internal strategic planning and really good data to have. By all means, go ahead and measure it. It does not at all mean that you need to share it. So it is kind of this, again, you're making a strategic decision of what supports our mission, what tells our story best, what are some of those stories that we need to include, and what are the really great for our internal conversations and might not be appropriate for the larger world. So And I do feel a little bad sometimes when I get those impact reports that are like 30 pages long and someone's worked really, really, really hard and spent probably several months of their life on it. And it just collects dust, right? Like proverbial dust. Nobody ever reads it. And it's a shame. Okay, the other thing that don't forget your suppliers and partners. I think suppliers in the nonprofit world, we could substitute the word partners as your stakeholders, right? You can measure and report upstream and downstream. And a lot of us that are small, we feel like we don't have that much of a story to tell because we're just so busy trying to do our thing, and it's harder to find those stories. And a lot of times those stories live with our partners or suppliers. So knowing who those people are, knowing their stories, knowing a little bit more about them gives you an opportunity to tell a bigger story about your own company. And I think, Bill, I'm going to call on you because I think you guys are a good example of that, working with so many small businesses in the Vermont community, showcasing some of the stuff that's cool and interesting and different that they're doing, and how by working with you that helps them. There's a story there, that's bigger than mighty. So and I see that a lot where and I'll show you an example when in a little bit where a very small company, a solopreneur food company, just really tells their story through the people that they buy food from, the farmers that they work with. And it becomes so much more interesting than anything that she feels they could kind of say on their own. So definitely good to know. And I find from talking to people, from working with people on the impact reporting, a lot of people, I would say majority of the people, don't know a whole lot about their partners or suppliers. They don't know who owns those companies. They don't know who is the head of them. They don't know how they run. They don't know if they have any certifications. They don't know if they're part of other networks. Like the amount of information they don't know is pretty large, I guess. So it is a worthwhile endeavor because it helps you build your own story and to feel and to know. I mean, obviously we all know how important it is to spend money with the right people. So that's the other piece of it. Transparency is rewarded. I think there's so much bullshit, frankly, that happens when it comes to telling an impact story that all of us have our like radars on, and we all kind of like almost prime not to believe what we hear. So, and between all the greenwashing, green hushing, and now I just recently learned a new term called green freezing, which was new to me, that, for all of us who are kind of being authentic, sharing what not just went right, but sharing things that were challenging is okay. Maybe you set a goal and you just didn't meet it. For whatever reason, you didn't meet your goal. It was a tough year. Things didn't go as planned. Talking about it, sharing it, owning up to it, I think only builds trust and accountability, and is a really good way to kind of lay that foundation of like, we are who we say we are. When we don't meet our own goals, we're not going to hide behind the wins. We're gonna be authentic about things that didn't go right. We're gonna level with you either way. So for a lot of businesses, especially, this is very uncomfortable, very, very uncomfortable to lean into things that maybe didn't work out quite as planned. And I'm not saying share like your financials or share your private information, but just be authentic when you talk about the year. I don't know if any of you on the call are public benefit corporations, but if you are, you probably are required by the legislature to have an impact report. And a lot of times accountants or lawyers will do one for you. And again, it's a missed opportunity. Yes, you will meet the legal requirement if your lawyer files one for you, but you're again missing an opportunity to share your impact story. So kind of take a step back and see if there's a way to leverage this.
Oh, we
And
have,
then this,
oh,
yeah.
You might be going back, but someone asked what was best practice number 3, but it looks
Oh,
like this
did I miss up my order? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. I think I messed up my order. Oh, sorry. I didn't notice that in the rush.
No, and as soon as I said, "Oh, there it is."
Yeah, sorry. I think my slides got a little out of order. Apologies. Um, so this question I hear a lot. I'm new to this. I'm new to this, I'm a startup, or I'm only in business for the year, or I'm new to the impact space. We're just starting to think about how we can be a green business or a sustainable business, or we're too small, like we're only 2 people, how much can 2 people do? I hear this all the time, and I'm always kind of chuckling because I think there's no such a thing. If you're a business that's independent, that is kind of thinking about how you run your business, that is positively impacts your community. If you're a nonprofit, you're by nature a mission-driven organization. If you have mission baked into what you're doing, there's no such a thing as new or too early, because there's going to be something you can talk about, there's going to be something you can share, and you already like miles ahead of the other people in your space. So it's going to be to your business advantage to do that no matter what, because think about it, there are millions and millions of small businesses in the United States, and the majority of them, vast majority of them, are not doing this. They're not even thinking about this. So it has become a competitive advantage in every way. And I know nonprofits, you guys think about this as often, you tell your impact story often in a fundraising context, and that works too. I don't know as much about impact reporting outside of the fundraising. Every time I've come across nonprofits using impact reporting, it's always been in a fundraising way. So it's a little bit more of a complex story to tell sometimes. So I'm really apologize that I didn't notice that the numbers are out of whack. But the final thing I want to tell you here is that your report is rich, so you mine it. So once you take the time to actually pull the stories together, pull the data together, figure out how this is going to be presented, I cannot encourage you enough to think about it of like, how can we use it throughout the year? If the investment of time and energy you make in creating it, you want to be able to use it more than just once. You want to leverage it throughout the time. So whether it's, dicing it up and slicing it up and creating a social media campaign throughout the year, whether it's adding video, whether it's adding a blog post about what the process was like of pulling this together, whatever it is, there's a lot of different ways to think through of how can we leverage this communication basically throughout the year, maybe something once a month or twice a month, so it doesn't become just something we do once and like do it and forget it. That would be really kind of not leveraging all the available resources to you. So just very quickly, and I just double check that we're doing okay on time. I wanted to throw at you some what we consider key ingredients for putting together a good report. And you'd be surprised how many of these get missed. So which is why I've decided, we were like, okay, let's just outline what they are, because again, it saves you a step of researching, thinking it through, trying to understand what to include, what not to include. So this way you kind of build the outline for you. So step one is what I call brand foundation. And for nonprofits for nonprofits and businesses, brand foundation includes mission, vision, goals, kind of like the core blocks of any organization. Then number 2 is products and services. And this is where, what is it that you do? As a nonprofit, who do you serve? Why do you exist? What's your charter? Like, well, what is it that you actually do? And the same thing for businesses. I cannot tell you how many times I've opened an impact report, looked at it cover to cover, and I'm like, I don't know what this company does. Like, what do they do? Like, I know they contribute to their community. I know they're really green. I know they think about, promoting people from within. They pay a living wage, whatever it is, all the awesome things they do. But what do they actually do? Like, what's the business? And I have to go online and look that up. So it sounds obvious, but this is often missed. So included because it does set the framework of how do I think about the kind of work you're doing in the impact arena. Um, if I don't know what you do, it's a lot harder to understand how you're doing overall. The stakeholder letter, that's usually a personal letter from the CEO or founder. And it should really be written by that person ideally, and have that person's voice. Anybody who is like the leader of the company sets the voice and the vision, the direction. I think having that personal, that personal tone, that person's personality come through is really important. It helps to tell the story of the organizations. The kind of things they can say in a letter are often, you can't capture them anywhere else. This may be a place where you own up to the challenges of the year as a CEO. This may be a place where you really brag about an amazing success. Whatever it is, but I think coming from the top, it really sets the tone. And then the impact reporting storytelling piece of it, that could happen in many different ways. So we talk about this impact reporting by the numbers. So there's usually by the number section. Give me a quick hit. Give me like a quick snapshot. We've all seen those pages. We've all seen those sections. What are they? And then what are some, what other system may you be using to support that? Maybe it's sustainable development goals, maybe it's something else, but other kind of metrics and systems that you utilize in your organization to do this work. Moving on to storytelling. So we all learn by stories. That's why, we tell our kids and babies fairy tales and fables and stories. Stories is how humans learn. So the storytelling information is really important, but you don't need to tell me a story that's super in depth, because nobody has time for that. Just give me quick hits. Tell me like the cool, interesting 2 free projects that were really unique and special this year. What made them unique and special? Why they were crucial for your organization? How did that move the mission forward? What were some of those things? And keep it short, please, because we all know our attention spans are not what they used to be. So, and then finally, certifications. Again, this probably is primarily for the business community. Certifications give you your street cred, right? Like if you have certifications, whatever they are, or if you're a member of Amoeba, if you're part of another community, if you have other business, you're women owned, whatever it is, that tells me that you are serious about some of these initiatives. You've taken the time to go through the rigor of getting certified. It adds that street credibility. Testimonials. There's nothing like hearing from your customers, your users, your constituents, your supporters, your investors, your funders, whatever it is, whoever it makes sense. But testimonials, hearing from other people talk about your organization or your product, is everything. So definitely important to sprinkle throughout. And then finally, engagement. And that I'd like people to think very carefully about, because a lot of times it's an autopilot kind of thing. We're like, oh yeah, we'll just promote it on social. We add it to our signature. Like some low-hanging fruit, sure, do that for sure. But again, like, is there a way that you can leverage the impact report in an interesting way that helps your organization? Is it asking for additional funding? Is it using it like as a fundraising tool? One interesting example I've seen is WeFunder. I don't know how many of you guys know WeFunder, but it's a crowdfunding software. WeFunder had basically a recruitment, like asking people to join the team at the end of the impact report because they were hiring, they were having a really hard time finding candidates. They were like, well, if you've taken the time to read this whole thing and seen that we are actually a really good company, maybe you'll want to come work for us. So they had actually added basically like apply for a job. Here's what jobs we have available at the end of the impact report. And I thought that was really an interesting way to, bring in that engagement that was outside of like the basic structure. All right. So one of the annual impact reports I'll show you in a minute was for Sustainable Business Network of Greater Philadelphia. I know they're a member of Amoeba. They're also a partner of ours. And working with Debbie and her team, we had done a number of like educational events in Philly for their community. And she said, we have an annual meeting in January. This is like right before Christmas last year. And we're really behind. And I want to get an impact report in front of everybody at our annual meeting. And do you think we can use your software to do it? And I said, Debbie, I don't know, because we really build it for businesses and maybe we may be tricky for a nonprofit to use it. She said, well, let's just try it and see what happens. So we did. We tried it and it worked out really well with a few minor changes that were things like that were pretty simple things to fix on our end. They were able to build an impact report in no time, very inexpensively, and share it at the annual meeting with like minimal stress. So it was that kind of first use case of working with a small nonprofit and testing, like actually in real time, testing how it would work. And because it worked out so well, I was comfortable to tell Jen that I think nonprofits, small nonprofits particularly, could really benefit from this as well. And then I'll show you one more with Narrative Food, and they're a small business based in Maine that's on their second year of doing impact reporting through the platform. And again, this is where telling the story by pulling in all of your suppliers can really build a story where they may not be one. So I'm gonna, I'll have to leave the PowerPoint to show you because these are live reports online. So give me a second. But before I do that, I wanted to leave you with some food for thought with this, with this quote from Tamara to encourage all of us to continue, to continue this because we are stretched so thin and there are so many things to do and it's very easy to let this piece go. And finally, just because I won't come back to the slide deck, since Amoeba is our partner, anybody who signs up with their link gets 15% off all the annual plans, and we make a contribution to Amoeba for every new organization that signs up. So I just wanted to make sure you guys know that. All right, let me get out of here and go in here. All right, are we still good? Do you guys see my screen, Jen? Okay, great. So I wanted to show you the impact report that Sustainable Businesses of Network of Philadelphia did. So again, it's a web page, and let me just grab it and put it in chat because lots of, so you have it and may want to see it another time. It starts out very simple. It's a one-page document online. Who we are, what we do, what is our mission, what are our values, which sustainable development goals apply to us. Letter from Debbie as an executive director outlining, what the year was like, what they focused on, annual highlights. They had a lot of trouble figuring out what numbers to include. So this is what they landed on. A little bit of, little tidbits about the year, a testimonial, and then this is the area where it was interesting, where normally on a business impact report, it would say impact on the environment. She felt strongly that she wanted to say the planet. So that was something we changed for them. And this is basically kind of like, what kind of work do they do? How are they structured to green up the planet? And then here, a quick little like mini case studies, if you will. What exactly did they do throughout the year? And they chose 3 to focus on that actually exemplifies the kind of work that they're describing here. And that structure continues with people, who are the people that they support and in the Philadelphia community, how they show up to support them. And these are, again, examples of what that looks like in action, and classes, events, programming they ran throughout the year to beef up the community's skills. And impact on profit, and this is how they supported local businesses. And again, what does that look like in actuality? So this was the structure, and because they are a nonprofit, they felt strongly they needed to include their financials, so this is what they did. And then every impact report, I feel really strongly needs to end with goals. Is goals that you set out for yourself and this year are goals that you want to be reporting on next year. And maybe if you do this quarterly, what kind of, strides have we made towards those goals in the following year? So really, like, it feels like it's a lax section, but it's probably one of the most important sessions, because this is what you're starting to lay the framework for what you're going to be working on in the following year. So this was that one. And very quickly, I'll show you narrative food. Again, who we are, what we do, our values, our mission, our social impact, letter from Jennifer as the CEO. And I'll drop it in chat. What her numbers are as a small business, a testimonial from somebody in her network. And then again, what is her impact on community? She is a small business, so she focused to talk about her partners. So she partners with World Central Kitchen, and this is a story about the local coffee roaster that they have in Maine that she's partnering up with on a grant. So again, it's very specific to the kind of stuff she does and pulling through the community to tell her story. She's a PBC, she's a public benefit. Sure, there's going to be special disclosures that she needs to include. And then in terms of her engagement, she does custom gift boxes. So why not include that and let people kind of buy from her as well? Why not use a little bit of marketing? So just really quickly, I wanted to share these 2. And since I want to make sure we have time for discussion and questions, I'm gonna stop talking.
Yeah, Andrea, you're welcome to come off mute, but she did ask about whether the impact reports that are created could be easily put in print materials, not just available online, or if that's something that you haven't really seen your members do yet.
It's a digital impact report, so it's not a PDF. Could pieces of it be recreated in a print form? For sure, but it's not an automatic click a button and it spits out a print product for you. We did a lot of research. We did a lot of research with our users and asked them how important was print stuff for them. And like universally, everybody said they wanted digital first. So that's what we focused on. And again, we are like a tiny little startup ourselves of 3 people. So, we're doing the best we can. And this is still an MVP, like minimum viable product, kind of proving the concept. And now that it's out there and people are using it, I get asked, can we have a PDF? Like all the time.
Yeah.
So it's clearly something that we need to think through and make sure that that's like part of the next build.
Yeah. I think for us, like we have so many meetings where it's just like so nice to hand them a print copy because they might not go to that link later. And it's like, if you're sitting down with a possible funder, we're a nonprofit. So, if you can get that in their hands and they're going to look at it. So I would say we do go to digital first, but there is certain situations where, the print is really handy. And then I wrote another question down, but I'm really trying to understand, is the platform really about collecting data as well throughout the year, so then you can create that impact report at the end of the year? Or is it more like a template? Because I see there's like a monthly fee, so I'm trying, for us, it's really hard to like collect all the data. We have so many different programs. And so like, how do we collect that? Where do we store that? So then when we get to the impact report, it's not this major lift for the organization. So we're really trying to sort through that. And so I'm curious, yeah, what the functionality is of units of impact for that kind of collection of data as well.
100% happy to answer you. So first of all, I do want to say that I want to be very transparent on what we do, what we don't do, because I don't want to mislead anybody. We build this tool for small business community. So when we build the data portal collection, we had business in mind. So the kind of data that nonprofits collect, and I work with nonprofits all the time under my round peg umbrella, is different than the kind of data businesses collect, which is why I wanted to show you, and I can send Jen, like I have a list, and there's a list online as well that tells you exactly what kind of data. So the kind of stuff you may be collecting as a nonprofit, it may be apples and oranges. It may not be useful to you at all. Just straight up.
Yeah, and I guess I'll say we're a nonprofit that supports small businesses, so it was kind of dual interest for us. But I'm just coming from the lens of like thinking about
Yeah.
our organization. But I do know so many of our businesses, like they would like to get B Corp certified, but they don't have the capacity or the funding to do it. So this seemed like a really interesting
Yes.
alternative and option for them. So I was, yeah, kind of curious with both
Yeah, so
lenses.
that was one of our goals, is to have this be, that stepping stone to the certification for businesses that are interested, because it is a big lift. There's no two ways about it. And for us that are in a B Corp community, recertification is a big lift. It's also really hard, and you have to do it every 3 years. So what happens, you only do this every 3 years, and the 2 years in between are kind of like black holes. And I was hating that, because as an impact business, I want to have impact every year, not every 3 years. So how do I keep track of this stuff and annually versus only when I need it for the certification? So yes, and I've had we work very closely with some of the B Corp certification consultants as well, and because they like to use the tool for all the data collection. So yes, it's very business focused when it comes to data for nonprofits, where if you're collecting data like on the services you offer and the programs, it's just not built for that right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but just to clarify for the businesses, then it is like it's a portal where you can like maybe monthly add data, and then it
Exactly.
is
Daily, monthly, quarterly, however, and there's and I'm happy, anybody who is interested, I'm happy to do a demo so that I can walk you through the nitty gritty pieces of it. And like I said, it's two parallel tracks. You could just be really geek out on the data and just go all in on data and not do an impact report, or you could do both, or you could do, for some of the bigger companies, they're using the impact reporting piece for quarterly reports, because they want to be able to keep this like front of their employees, like as a quarterly conversation, not once a year conversation. So there's different ways to use it. Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions?
And we've actually, I know somebody asked the question when they'd registered, Jen.
Thank you.
Like, how do you tell the aggregate story? If you're like Andrea, if you have all these businesses under your umbrella, how do you tell the story of the communal impact, if you will? And I'm struggling with that as well. Now that we have 40 companies on the platform, I want to say, well, collectively, we've donated this much money, or we've offset this many emissions, or we've done all this stuff. So we're actually working with data person out of University of Maryland to help us add that feature in and be able to analyze and aggregate data, so that there would be a news section on the dashboard for us, ourselves even, to see like, well, as a community, what have we done together? So I think we're going to be testing it on ourselves first, and then rolling it out so that if you are the type of business that, like an umbrella for other kinds of companies, that you could be able to kind of pull that together as well.
Yeah, if you need guinea pigs, we would
Yeah.
be, a lot of our members, I think, would be really excited about that. Bill, you raised your hand. Go
Well,
right
I
ahead.
did, because that's why I'm here, is that, as you know, we bring things, we bring scale to the little businesses and emerging brands. And so I'm here because some of these brands are interested in having impact reports. And so I'm wondering, how we can help them do that. And also, obviously, then that had me thinking, well, how do we express that as part of our story?
Right. So that's the big part of it. If they come, you get to know a lot more about your suppliers if people you work with start doing this, and you actually understand what are they doing, how many of them, X, Y, and Z. So it helps you to tell your story as Mighty. But for them, it is that whole, I'm seeing a lot of this happening at a corporate level, where large corporations are requiring their suppliers to submit impact data because they want to know, and they are required to report on their suppliers, right? But we are in a kind of independent impact space. I think I'm maybe 2-3 steps behind, but we're heading in the same direction, where it's like, how do we understand all the independent people that we work with, and how do we gather the information and then use it as well? So, and getting them to start measuring and start reporting is step one. So, which is why, like, we see ourselves at Unit, like we three of us are still running our companies. So this is still like an add-on to our lives. And we do it because we really want this to be a tool that we kind of bring to the impact community and say, we priced it so inexpensively so that everybody can be, accessibility is not an issue, is what I'm trying to make it accessible to even a really small business, building it in a way that nobody feels stupid using it. And then, like, share it, tell me, because it's only going to help you. It's going to help you in every way, right? So we kind of, and because we're still so young and so small, I work really, really closely with everybody on the platform. So I extend that to all of you guys. Like, if you want a conversation, if I can help in any way, if I can lend my expertise, help to tell you impact story. Right now, every single company in the platform, we work very closely together in everyone's impact report, because I am so vested in having it be the best possible it could be. Since I use it in my demos, I use it in our promotion, I want them to like shine, shine, shine. So I spend a lot of my time coaching and teaching and writing, and if I have to design a graphic to dump into it, I will, so it's like we're very much hands-on right now.
Awesome. Great. And I know we gave you a short amount of time to talk about a whole lot of things. So for those of you who are here, at the end of our presentation, we're going to send you the recording. We're going to send it to other folks who weren't able to make it today. But please feel free to follow up with me if you have any questions that weren't answered, or better yet, if you want to hear more from Unit Co. We'd love to get that feedback so we can bring her back for a longer discussion. Please do join us for our Local Leaders Roundtable in November. We'll have Low Country Local First talking about their membership best practices. Jackie asked about the code. We will definitely follow up with you on that as well. So you'll get the video recording, the link to our next Local Leaders Roundtable, and any kind of information. And thank you, Polina, for talking about your other job, your other hat that you wear. It's been fantastic to see everybody, and I think this is just the beginning of more conversations. So thank you, Polina, for joining us, and thank you all for taking time out of your busy day to be with us. It's always super to see you all, and have a great rest of your day as you filter off.
All right, thank you, everybody, and hit me up on LinkedIn.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Polina, we should catch up sometime.
We should. Let's
Right.
do that. Okay.
I've got to run, but
All right.
thank you very much. It was good.
Thanks, Bill.
Bye, Jen.
Bye-bye.
How do I get out of here?